Okay, good morning, everyone. Again, thank you for your patience. Could I please, it is 10:05, and this meeting, the special meeting of the Mayor's Council of Guam is now called to order. Mayor Luis, can we please have the roll call?
Yes, Mayor Jesse Allen,
Present.
Mayor Del Alvarez, Vice Mayor Jesse Bautista,
He's on his way.
Vice Mayor Peter Benaventi,
That's the Guiza.
Mayor June Bloss,
Present.
Mayor Anthony Chargaloff,
Present.
Mayor Ernest Chargaloff,
Present.
Mayor John Cruz, Vice Mayor Kevin Delgado,
Present.
Vice Mayor Christopher Farron, Mayor Jesse Gogui,
Present.
Mayor Robert Hoffman,
Here.
Vice Mayor Rudy Iriarte, Vice Mayor Loreto Leonis, Mayor Paul McDonald,
Yeah.
Mayor Rudy Paco,
Present.
Mayor Rudy Paco, Mayor Bill Kenga, Mayor Johnny Kanata, Mayor Louise Rivera here, Mayor Frankie Salas, Mayor Anthony Sanchez, I see you, Mayor Melissa Savares, Mayor Kevin Siswico, Mayor Vicente Taitigui,
Present.
Vice Mayor Albert Toves,
Present.
Mayor Alan Nangakta. I see you driving.
Present.
Could be 01.
Good morning.
Okay, yeah, 'cause I don't know with my student ID or number.
Mr. President, we have 16 members present. We do have a quorum.
Here, I'm here. Present,
Who's that?
Vice Mayor Bautista.
Okay, we now have 17 members present.
I'm present.
And there's Paco. We have 18 members present.
Zone Mayor present.
Jonya Mayor, 19. Okay. Okay, Mr. President, we now have 19 members present. We do have a quorum.
Mayor Luis, I really love our roll call. Good morning, everyone. Again, thank you for being here and on time. We'll go straight into new business. For the first item on new business was the Department of Administration. They were going to be here. However, they are not here. And because there is another meeting that's happening next Friday to iron out a lot of the other, or some of the other rules and procedures, they want to wait until after that meeting to make another presentation to the council. What they will do is they'll present or put together a PowerPoint presentation for us to review. The one thing, though, that I do want to address at this point regarding the WARC claims processing is the applications being available at the mayor's offices, like we did at the first round. Are there any objections to having these applications available in your offices? No, okay, because I don't see any objections. We'll go ahead and inform the Department of Administration that they can announce that the applications will be available at our offices. I know we talked about that informally, but I wanted to make sure that on the record, there are no objections to that. So again, like we did in the first round of these types of applications, we had them available at our offices. So thank you again for your cooperation. Moving on to anyone have any concerns regarding the war claims processing? Thank you so much. Moving on to our next item on the agenda, operations budget. In last meeting, we talked about our budget, and I did ask that we put together a committee that would discuss how we were going to allocate our operations budget. And several of you met, several of you sent in proposals. And I've also relayed those proposals to you. If you did not receive it, well, my office confirmed that everybody received it. And so on the screen, I'm sharing that this is the option. These are the options that we will be discussing today and possibly voting on. I did also announce that we would allow 15 minutes for each of these proposals to be shared with us, and then we can have our questions or answer any concerns that you might have. So option number one, we have Mayor Anthony Chargaloff. But before we go there, the mayor of Agana Heights is recognized.
I move to go ahead and call for the options, to vote for the options, because we had all this time to discuss it and actually review it. So that's my motion.
Thank you. Is there a second on the motion?
I second the motion.
Thank you. The motion is seconded by the mayor of Talofofo. Any discussion on this motion?
I do.
What time?
Okay, the mayor of Sinahania is recognized.
How are we voting on a formula that we don't know the amount on? I'm curious to know how you all, you're basically where we don't even know the sources of funding. That's the contention of our problem, is we don't know the source of the funding. We need to tell the legislature where we're going to get our funding. You're ready to vote on how we're going to spend it and how we're going to divide it. So I'm curious, did you figure out a source of funding that I don't know about? Because if we're going to go status quo, we're going to end up with the same boat. Fuel tax, all the other taxes that are there. So there's a difference between formula and an actual budget. And on the end, I thought we're discussing the formulas.
Yeah, we are discussing the allocation. Angel, did you have something to say?
The amount that we're going to be based on is the same as FY22. We've already been told that it's not going to be increased. And the funding source is not going to be from the highway fund. It's going to be where it is right now. We're not going to get any more than the 729. That I can assure you. It might be less because of ARPA, but 729 is the cap.
So with that being said, though, shouldn't we advise the legislature this is how we should go in terms of the formula? Like, we should get a portion of the tax. We should get a portion of the cigarette tax. We should get a portion of the fuel tax and have that, because this is the correct time for them to do the markup. So then going forward, we can easily plan our budgets versus always being at the helm of, oh, we'll just give you last year's or the year before, I'll pull it out of my behind and give you this thing. So I'm thinking, because if you look at any state out there, a territory, state, town, council, they get a portion of the property tax and we don't. And that's where it should go. That's what I'm saying is the formulas you have 5 different accounts or 6 different accounts that we have that we really feel could help that mayor's office operate regularly. And based on collections, we can actually decide like, hey, if we're allotted 10% of the recycling revolving fund every year, no matter what it is, just like they do 1/3 of the limited gaming fund, we can actually plan ourselves in terms of our funding. We get a portion of the of the cigarette and alcohol tax. We get a portion of the business licensing tax, because then those business districts would benefit from it. Those properties would benefit from it. And then the sequence inside would be based on, I don't think anyone would hurt using that formula, because then it makes sense and no one can complain that we're using Peter to pay Paul. Allow us, the mayors, to take a portion of the liquid fuel tax. We buy gas, we cut the grass, we do the village streets, we maintain it. So in that whole sense, we should be able to tap that, instead of us being where it wasn't allowed unauthorized expenditure from the liquid fuel tax or the highway fund. Allow the mayor saying, okay, whatever percentage we can figure out would be a safe percentage, this would be now the funding sources for all the mayors. So if we're only going to talk about this year's budget, then I'm okay with that, then that's fine. But we really should inform the legislature moving forward. This is the best way to plan, because I don't like doing this every year. I do not like arguing every year, big versus small, long versus short, all the other things like this. But if we have a set amount saying, okay, I have this many houses in here that pay property taxes, this is going to be my budget to operate my office and whatever. This is how many, whatever the funding source we have. So especially like the TAF, the more historic districts you have, you should be able to get more money to help maintain those historic sites and vistas and views and stuff, which is totally agreeable, because you have more responsibility to help stir tourism. It's an easy connection. You can draw a line from A to B versus saying, okay, everybody's just going to get TAF money and you don't even have, some of you don't even have any stuff. And I don't have much. So if there's registered parks, you should be able to get some funding from the TAF to help maintain that. Taking it away from having to rely on either GVB or Parks and Recs or somebody else to say, oh, because it always ends up falling on all of you. So I'm trying to figure out if we're going to go with the budget only, or can we also just recommend legislature, look at this formula. Is this something doable so that we don't have to keep, I literally feel like we have to beg to operate and to exist. And that should never be the case.
So I do have, Angel, do you have a comment about that remark, or about Mayor Hoffman's comments?
Well, actually, he's already presenting his proposal, so we should hear more from him during his 15-minute.
Yeah, but you guys want to vote on a number already, so it doesn't make any sense if I have no numbers on mine because there's no figure to put into it.
I'm also trying to figure out how we're gonna, I understand what you're saying, Mayor Hoffman, and I agree, and I know Mayor Ernest's hand is up, but I'm just trying to figure out, I think we need to I get it, but we need to focus on the motion, right? So we can either, we should vote on the motion and it either passes or it fails, and then we can fix it after that. But I understand what you're saying. The Mayor of Melissa is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. President. I sent everybody my assistant sent everybody the numbers as far as Mayor Anthony's proposal, the 85% to be divided equally, and the 15% to be divided based on population. So I took the liberty of providing that, and also doing the program based on the road mileage. So you guys should be able to view that, and you can see that there's really not much difference as far as the two formulas are concerned, population and pro rata. And also on the Angel, I see the option to submit it by me. My exhibit A is 87. Last year, it's the same thing as far as going back to last fiscal year's funding distributions. It's not 19.3 equally to each village, but rather the last year's is 87% to be divided equally, and 13%, which is what was done in the SMB distribution last year. So
Mayor Ernest, I'm sorry, could I just interrupt real quick? Can we go ahead and square away the motion first, so that we can, if the body decides to, whichever way they decide, then we can give the three of you the figure 15 minutes. So if we can just.
Okay, Mr. President, but on the Mayor Anthony is going by population. I'm recommending that we go with pro rata vote matters. You guys all have the information there. I'm withdrawing the Exhibit A. That was what should have been done in FY 2022. It was not done. Now moving forward, already they did receive 94,000 and this FY 2022. In my suggestion, and Anthony, Mayor Anthony, they're going to receive 64, while she's going to receive 56 from mine. So we vote on these options, and Mayor Bob doesn't have the number, so that means if we're going to vote, then we have to suspend this and postpone this until we're able to come up with numbers to vote on. So, but whatever this body decides, whatever the body decides, I'm willing to listen, and if it has to be extended, we still have time to submit to the legislature for the appropriate language and the division of the funds. Thank you.
That's right. Thank you, Mayor Ernest. What I would like to say though is, could we go ahead and make the motion on the motion to vote on either options? And we, instead of voting on an option, just so that we can, it's fair for everyone, I guess, if I could say, this motion would be to either to proceed with voting or to not proceed with voting. Is that okay, Mayor McDonald? Is that in line with that motion, or would that be not the intent of your motion? So I'm just reiterating that the motion is to proceed with voting. It's either a yes or a no. And then we have another motion to decide on how the vote is going to be taken, or how we're going to proceed. Is that okay, Mayor McDonald? Mayor Taitigui, you second the motion. Is that going to be okay?
That's okay with me.
Okay, so what I would like to do is proceed then, and we'll do roll call, and we're voting on whether or not you're voting yay if we're proceeding to vote on one of the options, or you're voting nay if you do not want to vote on the options at this point. Anyone have any questions? Thank you. Mayor Luis, can we please have a roll call?
Mayor Jesse Allen.
Yay.
Sorry. Mayor Del Alvarez. Vice Mayor Jesse Bautista.
Nay.
Vice Mayor Peter Benaventi.
Here. Nay.
Mayor June Blas.
Nay.
Mayor Anthony Chargoloff.
Yay.
Mayor Ernest Chargoloff. Mayor Ernest Chargoloff.
Yay.
Mayor John Cruz. On the chat, it says that he is present, but I don't see him or hear him. So Vice Mayor Kevin Delgado.
Yay.
Nay. I'm sorry.
Yay.
Yay. Yes.
Yeah, yay.
Aye or nay? Use aye or nay.
Aye.
I proceed. Okay, Vice Mayor Christopher Farron. Mayor Jesse Gogui.
Nay.
Mayor Robert Hoffman.
Nay.
Vice Mayor Rudy Iriarte. Vice Mayor Loreto Leones. Mayor Paul McDonald. Mayor Paul McDonald. Okay, that's his motion, but no vote. Mayor Rudy Paco.
Nay.
Mayor Bill Kenga. Mayor Bill Kanga,
Mayor Johnson, nay on the chat.
Mayor Johnny Canata, Mayor Luis Rivera, nay. Mayor Frankie Salas,
Nay.
Mayor Anthony Sanchez, Mayor Melissa Savaras, Mayor Kevin Siswico, Mayor Vicente Taitigui,
Nay.
Vice Mayor Albert Toves,
Nay.
Mayor Alan Nagapta. Mayor Alan Nagapta,
Mayor Johnson, nay. Look at the chat.
2, 4, 6. Mr. President, there's 14 nays and 2 ayes.
Thank you. We're going to go ahead and begin with the 15-minute presentation for all three, and we will start with the first one will be the Mayor of Inalahan, Mayor Chargaloff. Please begin. Would you like to present first?
Sure, yes.
Okay,
So,
thank you.
so anyways, I understand Mayor Hoffman's positioning, and I do appreciate that it's probably a good thing to recognize and make a determination of where these funds should be coming from. So I wholeheartedly agree that we should go in and approach the senators to identify what's funding sources that we should be able to allocate and be given to the mayors. However, after all of that compilation of numbers coming from various potential sources, I still would like to propose that the division of the monies is such that out of whatever, again, and I use $1 million as an example. So if it's $1 million, 85% of that would automatically be divided equally amongst all the mayors. And the remaining 150,000 or 15% would be divided up based on population. I'm sticking with the population simply because, you know, and I'm going to use this. So the road mileage, for example, in Deredo is 44, and the road mileage in Umatak is only 5. The problem wrong is that if, for whatever reason, perhaps the population in Deredo, you know, would decrease as a direct result of maybe a big land sale going on in Umatak, and all of a sudden, just within 5 miles, you go from 700 population to now, you know, 1,500. And yet to only be recognized for the road mileage, I think it's an unfair and unjust. Me personally, I believe we should really just totally remove road mileage out of our language as far as mayors. And you know, even Mayor Hoffman, I use that as an example. Their population is a lot more than Agatnia, but his road mileage is a lot less. Therefore, he doesn't get a good portion of that share. So again, all I'm really proposing here is that we really consider the division, because that's kind of like where we're always stuck at, is how do we go to the division of this monies again? So whether it's SMB or whatever else is out there, the division of 85-15, I think, is something we should stick to. You know, the one thing also, Mayor Alec and all my colleagues, I want to try to at least let you guys know what my sentiments are. You know, when I came on board, I found it very unfair that my staff is getting the same salary or same hourly rate as under Mayor McDonald, who's been in there 20-some years. I personally feel that we need to kind of put some structure together. And my proposal for this is that, so every mayor serves 4 years. After the second year, the employee works, that we allow for them to get $1 raise. And so basically, if you're starting out at $10, you're now making 11. After 28 years or after 7 consecutive terms, you're really going to only go from $10 to $17 in that 28-year span. And for me, I want to say that we need to recognize the loyalty, the hard work, the commitment that these guys have, the employees have towards the mayors, and we need to recognize that and somehow give them that raise that's so important. And the last one I want to try to say is this, and I know I've been egging about this, but for many, including myself, I don't have a community maintenance leader
Yet I designated somebody there, and this guy's going over and beyond, nighttime, weekend, whatever. He's always on the call out, very responsive, at least for me. But my question is how do I designate him a leader, and how do I retain him for the next 3 years if there's no differential in pay? And so I like to ask, that collectively as a body that we kind of put that into consideration, because if I decide to continue running, and if I end up like Mayor McDonald, doing 28 years, it would be so unjust of me to see these guys go through all these without any kind of upward mobility. So I please ask you guys to take all that into consideration, and let's do what's just for our employees who are so dedicated and loyal to us. So thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Chargaloff. Are there any questions for the mayor regarding his proposal at this time? Okay, thank you. If there are none, thank you, Mayor Chargaloff again. And the mayor of Molesto is now recognized for your 15 minutes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. President. Like I said, I withdraw my Exhibit A, and I will join with Mayor Chargaloff and basing the distribution based on population to get the 85%. So I don't think I need 15 minutes. You guys already have all the figures that I prepared from the pro rata to population. So it's up to you guys if you guys want to recommend, but I would like to withdraw my Exhibit A. Going back to last fiscal year, that was not provided for. This Zoom meeting should have been done prior to that decision being made in 2022. But since that is over already, I joined in Mayor Chargaloff's proposal to divide it by population. As you guys can see, that the 64,000 that Dedido stands to receive is a lot less than 94,000 for FY 2022. So that 30,000 differential trickles down to the smaller villages who lost significantly. Likewise with Jigo, he lost some. So all those losses that they gained in FY 2022 for FY 23 would trickle down to the smaller villages. So that I joined as fair for Dedido to get the 64, but in my opinion, not 94. Well, what was done was, in my opinion, bullying, where you take from the smaller villages to give to the larger. I think the population distribution, I joined Mayor Anthony, and that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Ernest. Are there any questions? Okay, the Angel, you have a question.
Yeah, I just wanted to clarify with Mayor Ernest. We're not considering your option A. We're considering your option B, which was already given to all the mayors. So are you withdrawing option B?
Angel, if you look at option A and Exhibit B, okay, they pretty much mean the same. Exhibit B, the language and the amendment is what I was asking for. The Exhibit B language to strike that each mayor shall receive 20,000. My amendment in Exhibit B would be provide the language that says that each mayor shall receive the consolidated amount of what they received in FY 21 from the SMB, the IW, and the PSSCP. That's the same language that would have the same effect as Exhibit A. So it says that Exhibit A would have been the Chapter 8, the applicable Chapter 8 if the bumps was not introduced. Now Exhibit B, the language is what stands out that will have the same effect as Exhibit A. That every mayor will go back to what they received in FY 21 from the SMB, the IW, and PSSCP. Well, I withdraw those and I join with as far as the population, because everybody's looking at big and small. I think the population is a compromise between both. Melissa will get 64 as opposed to 94, and we're going backwards. She's going to go down to 44. This is all 44 to 64 is a good compromise. Mayor Bada is going to go to 33,000 instead of 22,000. That he's going up to 33,000. I think that's a compromise. He's getting an increase, which will only decrease from FY 21 of $3,000. So that is a compromise between the large and small villages. And this is all I ask, guys, that we work together to see how we can all benefit rather than one-sided. It's a one-sided affair where one side is really favored while the others are not being tended to. And that's what I ask, is some kind of equity and fairness. So I think the
Okay, Mayor, I just wanted to clarify. I just wanted to clarify
the Exhibit B, okay, Exhibit B, it has the same effect as Exhibit A.
So you're withdrawing your proposal then, and you're
Yes,
supporting
and
option one.
I joined in Mayor Charles' proposal for population, and I provided you guys the figures. So computing it is not a problem. I've already took it. I already took the liberty of doing it. And as you guys can see, it's the data information is from the 2020 census by the Bureau of Statistics and Plans, which is a government entity. Now, if there's any other census or any other count that we want to work with, we must all work together with the same numbers or the same data. That way, we're all on board using the same information to make our vote. Thank you, Angel.
Anyone else have any questions for Mayor Ernest? Okay, we'll move on. Mayor Hoffman, you have your 15 minutes.
Thank you. Thank you, my dear colleagues. I'm hoping you saw the report or the paperwork that we were able to, I sent out from here. And what this basically does, it gives parity and gives fairness and equity to everyone based on what you're actually be able to do. And I don't agree in removing the pro rata mileage, because it depends. If you look at the way the formula is, and I'm going to go through each formula here. Right now, currently, there's no set financial source to fund the Mayor's Council of Guam operations, what Angel does, everybody else there. So in setting the real property tax, I'm actually looking for the Guam tax report, because I saw it and I actually saw the numbers, and it was just up to us. And let's recommend the legislature give us a portion of that. If they say, if right now the Mayor's Council gets how much to operate, $2 million to operate, for example, find that within the property taxes, whatever the percentages, and say, so from now on, Mayor's Council received 2%, and that's where it gets its 2 million. So it's not really changing anything in that sense. It's just saying that now it's now going to be funded from something that where it should be funded, and it'll cover everything that it says there. The next one is the village office operations. Really should be based on the amount of homes and properties in your district. That's how it's funded throughout the world, no matter where you go. Mayor's offices, local governments are funded through real property taxes in that way, as well as the commercial taxes that are paid, or business tax. So imagine areas like Tumon, Dededo, Agatna, Jigo, Barragata, all those places with businesses and industrial zones. This is where you're going to get a big bulk of the money, because the impact to your community, that's how you do your operations. Then your village street maintenance, this is where we divide it by the pro rata mileage, because that's really what it is. You're maintaining streets. And that should really come from liquid fuel tax and the Guam Highway Fund. So it's carving out a portion of that and saying, yes, mayors, you're allowed to use it because you're the ones cutting the grass and cleaning the streets and maintaining the streets. I don't see any other purpose of it outside of giving it to DPW, who don't maintain, many of you still maintain the primary roads. GVB doesn't do it. Many of you cut areas there. And so why should you not get the money for the primary roads? Because the technicality in the law makes zero sense to me. So you really should as districts benefit from the Guam Highway Fund and liquid fuel tax. Next is the public safety education. You remember this, it was called PSSEP. I don't know the name of the form. It keeps changing from community development to the Family First or Healthy Futures Fund, but we can call it whatever we want, but it really should come from a portion of the alcohol beverage tax and tobacco tax. This is the sin taxes. This is where we always should get the money from, because why? We're trying to put on sports and stuff to help curb alcoholism and drug use and all the other things. And really, if they're really serious about it and saying, mayors, here's a portion of the money, use it for this. And this can be done by a baseline, because we don't know how many smokers there are in, Jotnya versus there are in Manila. So let it do by a baseline, and then do the rest of the percentage by a population, because that way you can always plan. Once we know what the revenues are, the revenue projections are for the ABC tax and tobacco tax, We can already say, mayors, this is what we're going to be getting as a finance person, all of you. You can now plan ahead and saying, wow, we're actually going to have pretty good collections. We're going to get a pretty good chunk to help with the prevention education programs and activities. And we can allow for it to cover for, improvement of the parks. One thing I wanted to go back on the village office operations. Imagine if you're getting a portion of your real property tax and commercial taxes and allow for it to be used to hire more personnel. That's a good thing, because I don't like the restrictions that none of our budgets are allowed for additional personnel. We have to stick with their means. But if you really have money based from these taxes, these property taxes, you should be able to have, you should be allowed to hire more personnel, because you need more people to maintain your areas, like Dededo, like Jigo, like Barragata, like Chalampago, because that's the size based on your real property. The next thing is island-wide beautification fund. I say, we keep saying everything's beautification. Is village streets maintenance the same as beautification? No, it's not. So change it to the Heritage and Cultural Preservation Fund. Get the money out of the TAF. When the TAF was good, the mayors got a certain portion of it, but we were always criticized for it, because why? Why should the mayors get money from the TAF? Well, we're the ones maintaining all those sites. We're the ones having to cut the grass and keep the road safe. So if we change the name of the fund to the Cultural Heritage and Preservation, use it as a portion of the tourist attraction fund of the hotel, that's what you go for your, that's what you use to maintain this. And we base it on the number of registered parks and sites that your area has jurisdiction over. Those beaches, those overlooks, all those things. So Hagåtña can have 10 areas. So a portion of that. So imagine if for every park he gets, $7,000 to maintain it. That's a pretty good deal based on the number of things you have to do there. So it's, based on a formula there. The next one is the limited gaming tax. Everyone gets a portion of this because gaming affects everyone. It impacts everyone. Do it by a baseline and then by population. This, again, can be used for capital improvements, sports sponsorship. We know that. The next one is a new fund. We can either call it Community Development Fund or Community Impact Fund, but this is where we feel everyone's paying the recycling revolving fund, but we hate waiting for an agency to have to allot it to the mayors. Imagine if it was already said, this portion of the recycling revolving fund went to the mayors, so you can actually clean up these sites regularly, have an open purchase order to do these things, do risk management, safety, use it to buy vehicle purchases. This sets the tone, because then people don't mind paying taxes if they know what it's going to. And we hear it all the time. People hate saying, I'm paying something, I'm paying a street light fee, but I got no street light. Or I'm paying this fee and I'm not doing anything. All these fees make sense. All these sources of funding make sense for you as a mayor and for your district, because we're not asking anything outside of what would be the normal funding source for an actual municipal office. I mean, these are the one, two, I think they're what, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 funding source. There's 7 areas, but 6 funding sources. We think that can govern the mayors. Like I say, this would benefit many, many villages in a different way, and we would never have to fight again and argue again, because why? You're actually getting what you should be getting. You don't take the taxes of Beverly Hills and give it to West Hollywood. You don't take the taxes of Colorado and give it to Wyoming. It stays within those areas. So if we really are to be treated like local governments, this is where it stays within. Each of these sources help fund a specific task in your district, so you're no longer having to worry about this massive combination of VOMPs and saying, use it whichever way you can, because like I said, some of us are larger, some of us are smaller, but for the smaller ones, you benefit because some of you smaller ones are more historic districts. That's where you make up in your loss in terms of lost revenue there. But some of your larger ones where your property taxes are huge, this is where it's going to help. And this helps push the government to make sure their collections are taking place. Because I always read people are not paying their property taxes, and that Guam has the lowest tax rate for property. But this is where we say, okay, this is why we need to fix this formula. We fix the formula, we fix the laws that govern the mayor's council. This sets us on the right path for future development, for planning, and for all other things, because we shouldn't be different than our stateside colleagues or the rest of the world. I'm open for questions if you have.
Thank you, Mayor Hoffman. Are there any questions for Mayor Hoffman at this time? The mayor of Melissa is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mayor Bob, those suggestions, I kind of agree with, but we need time to look at the funding sources and then the breakdown of what is available to be given to the mayors. Because the most of the SMB and the IWBBP for the past 16 years have either come from the Tourist Attraction Fund, and that's rightfully so. And even if we have to get away from the general fund, and we mayors can begin on the Guam Highway Fund, because everything we do is highway related. It has to do with highway safety. We need to maintain the shoulders of the road so that in the event of an emergency, the vehicles can safely pull over to the shoulder to proceed to emergency vehicles and not creating a head-on collision by not proceeding to that. But we may need time, Bob. We may need time to look at what funds are available and the amount of funds that can be granted to our mayors, and then we'll look at because not all parks fall under the purview of the mayors. Like my park, I have to lobby for my Malaysia Pier Park. In 2009, by 2010, the legislature unanimously gave me the park under my purview, under my administrative jurisdiction and control. In Alohan, just got the in-Alohan pool. Now, I have also the Common Park that is under my purview. And if we can look at the funding sources and the funds that every year the monies are set into special funds. If we can tap those and then consolidate them so that we can use it for operations, but these funding that we receive are from the Tourist Attraction Fund, and on occasion is General Fund. The other one is from the PSSCP we receive from the Guam Territorial Education Facilities Fund. Okay, and that goes to public safety, social education programs. The IWBP and the SMB, they come from the Tourist Attraction Fund, and it's only fitting. And we can also tap the Guam Highway Fund. Why do we have to restrict it to, maybe they say it's an unrelated expense when you use Guam Highway Fund to hire personnel that has nothing to do with highway, either maintenance or what. But we can tap the Guam Highway Fund to augment and supplement the Tourist Attraction Fund, because it is related expense that we got. We purchase gas, and we pay our personnel to go out there and maintain and beautify our highways, whether it be the tertiary or secondary roads or the primary road. But I agree with you, Bob. If we can see how much more can we benefit, all we have to do is do the legwork and see how much money are there available every year. Because the taxes, they fluctuate, they go up, they go down, depending on what's collected. But I agree with you, Bob. I mean, any option, any additional option is better than just sticking with one option, Bob. And go ahead and thank you for that suggestion. All I'm asking, guys, is that we look at what funds we can tap to enhance our ability to do our jobs as mayors out here in our respective villages. Thank you.
Thank you. I agree with you, Mayor. I can't put a figure on this because I think the legislature has to kind of go back. If they know this is where we want our money from, this is the source, this is what we're going to use it for, I think this works. So I found the paper I was looking for. Almost $38 million was collected in real property. So if we say 10% of that will fund the Mayor's Council of Guam, or 5% will fund them, that's a pretty good chunk. And then at least we know that stays that way in perpetuity. No matter what the collections are, 5% will go to the Mayor's Council of Guam for this specific task. I'm looking at the liquid fuel tax. So they're called the activity highlights of the revenue taxation. There's sections here which shows what, how it comes in. These are where I think the legislature knows how much it collects. Let's go back and say I think if we say, show us what the numbers are, then we can agree on a percentage that we are comfortable with to fund our districts moving forward. That would give us a good baseline to say, okay, I don't think it would reduce anything from what we're doing right now or what we're discussing right now. I think it actually is going to give us a better edge, because you're right. You shouldn't have to beg or ask for maintenance or for money to maintain a park like in Alohan, like your Maritzo Pier Park. It should say it's in Maritzo, you're going to get money for it. If it exists, you're going to have to maintain it anyway as a mayor, you know? So if you have 5 different community parks, if you have 2 beaches and a pier and everything, you should get money to maintain it as the mayor in that area there. And if it's not the agency that's going to do it, then transfer the money this way, and then that's what becomes the responsibility. It's easier to govern, I say, knowing that you're going to get percentages. Like the recycling revolving fund collects, I think, what, $2 or $3 million a year. That's where, or no, $15 million is vehicle registration. So imagine a portion of the vehicle registration money of the 15 million went to the mayor's council for that. Why? Because we're the ones having to collect all that stuff and do all the other things. So I'm saying, let's ask the legislature what those numbers would be. Then we can go back and see, fill in the blanks. Angel? You're on mute.
Mayor Harmon, I totally agree with you. And it makes for better planning. We already know what funding sources we have and what percentage we're getting for those funding sources. The only problem here is that if it's just going to be put in a budget bill, it won't work. It has to be codified so that no legislature can change it for years down the road. If it's just put in a budget bill, it's going to happen. Same thing happened in FY22 where they changed it from FY21 as the formula. So I would suggest that the 3 of you that put in your proposals, you, Mayor Ernest and Mayor Tony, and maybe 3 others, with the president's approval, put a committee together and continue to work on this, on identifying these funding sources so that we can make the legislature know that, hey, here's the liquid fuels tax, here's the recycling revolving fund or streetlight tax, here's all these special funds. We want to work on getting something in statute that says we shall be given a certain percentage of those funding sources every year so that we can plan ahead. We can decide, yes, we're going to raise our employees because we have the money. We can hire more people because we have the money, and things like that. So your proposal is I think it's very much needed. It's just that I don't think we have enough time for fiscal year 23 to put that together, because we all know that all those funding sources have already been identified for something else. But if we really as a group collectively come up with what it is that we want, I believe that we can succeed in getting some of these funding sources identified and dedicated to the Mayor's Council of Government and to the villages. So I agree with you. Right now we don't have any figures for you or for any of these funding sources because we're not privy to the figures that come out of DOA. But just by what you said on real estate tax, that's a big amount. Even at 1%, that's already a big chunk that can help each of the villages. So that's my recommendation to the president, is we keep the 3 of you together, plus maybe add 3 more to work, and I'll work with all of you to make sure that we put something in writing as a proposal to the legislature to consider for our future budgets.
Thank you, Angel. And Mayor Hoffman and Mayor Ernest, I will agree with you that we need more time. I was going to say after Angel that I don't know if this is going to work for fiscal 23, because that, we have to submit by the 23rd of March, and but it makes sense. And so, yes, Angel, I agree to have the 3 continue to work on this so that there is a formula, like Mayor Hoffman says, that will end all formulas, and that we don't actually have to come back and do this every year. So with that said, I want to remind everyone that we do have a deadline of March 23rd to submit something, and it's going to have to be, and I would prefer that we submit something rather than for the legislature to decide what they're going to do with our 729,000. The mayor of Order Talampag is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. President. And listening to the dialogue thus far, I mean, I think, I wholeheartedly agree with the comments to date. Mayor Hoffman's recommendation on looking at the different revenue streams that GovGuam collects and gets deposited into the general fund, and then potentially tapping into certain percentages of that revenue stream and identify those percentages for funding as funding sources for the Mayor's Council of Guam. And Angel is absolutely right. You know, if we're going to try to move away from this yearly battle that we find ourselves in and amongst each other regarding our budget, it really needs to be codified. I mean, the limited gaming fund and the percentages we receive from the limited gaming fund is codified. So all it is a matter of what's collected, and then it gets dispersed between us, the hospital, and the schools. I think there's one other agency that benefits from the limited gaming fund. And we could potentially ask the legislature to see if that could be done with some of the other revenue streams that really should fund our operations. And with that, as the revenue collections fluctuate, we can hopefully down the road think about, especially if there's increases, take a look at Mayor Tony Chugloff's recommendation about applying some of those fluctuations and helping fund increments for our staff, employees that have been with us for most of our time in service. And his comparison or his analogy regarding Mayor McDonald, I mean, that's true. You got a lot of Mayor McDonald's staff who's been with him for his entire 7 terms in office that really are that's basically making the same amount of money as everybody else, and luckily, I think most of us or all of us can say that the reason why our staff sticks with us is because they love their job. They love the fact that they're able to provide support and assistance to the community and see the rewards of doing that. But I certainly agree that for FY 2023, I agree with Mayor Alec that we really need to come up with a formula, because it's going to be unacceptable for us to just let the legislature determine how these monies are going to be dispersed. And I think we need to present a formula that's going to be at least palatable to all of us for FY 2023 and potentially maybe a FY 2024, because it's going to take a while for us to find somebody to sponsor, new legislation that'll allow us to start tapping into certain percentages of the different funding streams that the government of Guam currently generates. And so with that said, I think what got us here today is the fact that we moved from these special accounts or these identified accounts. It used to be Mayor's Council of Guam Operations, and then the gym, and then a street maintenance budget, Iowa beautification, public safety and social education special accounts. And that we all of a sudden get it clumped into one lump sum. And that's what we're now calling the VOMs. But in all of those years of these old, subcategories of counts, only one account was distributed based on road mileage. And that was a street maintenance budget. Everything else was basically even out down the line. And so when we applied that formula of street maintenance mileage to not just street maintenance funds, but all of the monies that we receive under VOMs, it just what a nightmare it cost amongst the mayors, because I mean there were some significant reductions in our budgets, especially for the smaller villages that were already operating at a small budget to begin with. So given that, ultimately, I believe what Mayor Chugloff and both Mayor Chugloffs have done is they said, okay, let's take a look at the percentage of street maintenance monies that we've been getting and we've been applying this formula to, and let's say, okay, we're going to take that percentage and apply that formula to that percentage. And the rest of it will evenly divide amongst the 19 municipalities, so that the change in funding is not going to be, dramatic and continuing our annual operations. And I think they're both fair. As you can see, the calculations for street maintenance versus population formula between the two triglyphs, not much difference. One of the things I have to say about the population is we know that every decennial, every 10 years, that is going to be updated. With regard to the Village Street mileage, I mean, we don't know when that's going to be updated. In fact, if you guys remember in 2010, when we, for those of you who were in office, when there was a proposal to use this 2009 street mileage numbers, there was just havoc and mayhem, because the mileage wasn't determined by DPW, it was determined by BSP. And so, but the law said that we would use DPW street mileage form or calculations. But when I believe BSP got involved in identifying street mileage, and it raised some and dropped others, it's like, so I kind of want to get away from that. I think we need to get away from that because, as we work to improve our roads and add to our mileage, it's never corrected. It's never being updated. But one of the things that we do know is that every 10 years, we're guaranteed that somebody's going to go out and calculate our population every 10 years. And it's an independent, it's a third party. There's no politics involved in and crunching those numbers. And so I kind of tend to lean towards Mayor Chagla. And I think with the formula that he's presented, it allows us to at least maintain some solvency in the funds that were once island-wide village beautification, public social safety education, et cetera, that weren't affected by road mileage, and then just take a percentage and say, okay, we're going to do this, use this formula for this amount of money for road mileage, or now in Mayor Trugloff from Inalon's case, population. But understand, I think the idea of VOMS is a good thing. Not having these different special accounts, because there were several times, and as prices for fuel goes up, there were several occasions where we were running out of money in our village to cover fuel costs. But I couldn't take from PSSEP funds to cover fuel because it was restricted. There is just a certain set of activities that you could only spend that money for. And so luckily, we had some carryovers and we were able to cover fuel costs. And so this VOMS eliminates most of that, okay? And I really think that having one budget, letting the mayors determine how it's going to be apportioned for their respective operations is a good thing. And I think that, given all of what's been presented, I really think that the population would be more equitable and more fair, and that we know it's going to be updated every 10 years. So that's just my take. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mayor Gogui. The mayor of Melissa is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. President. Angel, a while back, I requested, sometimes what we need as mayors, at least in my case, is the ability to use the carryovers from my limited gaming funds. I've spoken to you about this in the past, that we can have the limited gaming funds amended so that we can use it for fuel. Because how can you play baseball or basketball when the baseball field is not upkept? You need gas to maintain and upkeep those fields and even the access to those fields. Okay, and although it's been the one code annotated covers that and it protects it from being raided, and the legislature using it for other purposes, and those limited gaming funds were created when Senator Morrison was senator. And it was annotated and codified for that purpose, so that it becomes a steady stream of funding to the mayors for the facilities and the recreation and sports facilities in their districts. So I think what we need to do is just, if I'm able to be amend the law to allow me to at least a quarter of that money allocated from the LGM, so that I can supplement and augment whatever shortfalls I may have on the other fundings. I'm okay with that. But for now, like I said, I recommended that we look at all the funding sources that we can tap to, and it's a lot better than having to shoot barbs at each other. You're only thinking of the small ones, you're thinking of the large. You know, it creates cliques within this country. I think we should work together. There's strength in numbers, guys. When we speak, the powers that be in this government have to listen to us, because we represent the direct contact with our people. And that's what this government is for. It's for the people. And I believe that if we work together, you know, put our differences aside and come collectively together to find ways to, in order for us to benefit, give me enough money to work in my village, and then the rest to do the same. Okay? I don't need so much money. I may want nobody. You cannot wait the wants, but the needs is what I'm looking at. What I need to operate with to adequately do my job here, to maintain and upkeep my village and provide services to my people. That's all I need. I don't need anything about them beyond that. It's a want, and let's take care of our needs. And that's what I want. Now, last year, you know, fortunately for the Arpa funds, it supplements my ability to do things. But in the absence of the Arpa, $12,000 is significant. For a poor person, you have to be frugal and diligent in how you spend your money. And you can't spend money you don't have in the first place. But thank you guys, and this is a start to work collectively together to find the funding sources that will make us more effective in providing services to our people and doing our jobs in our respective villages. Because I acknowledge that Henry does need more money because she's larger. If you look at the proportion on the pro rata and the population, Robert will go above me because he's more populated. When you look at Roe Malik, he's going to go below me. But whatever the case may be, we can find common grounds that we can all collectively benefit to do our jobs effectively and efficiently, and most importantly, productively, so that every one of us have a better chance of getting reelected should we decide to pursue a reelection. This might be my last thing, guys, but I'm trying to see what we can do so that I can say that honestly, like I said the last meeting, I can honestly say that it was an honor working hard. But all these throwing barbs at it, it doesn't do any good. I mean, man, I'm you know, if you don't bother me, you're not going to get anything from me. But when you step on my toes, I will have to. When you touch my money, I'm going to have to say something. That's just my nature. And I want you guys to understand that I only speak to express you guys, to express myself. And I want to thank you guys that we're taking this opportunity. This is what should have been done last year, in fiscal year 2022. Okay? And this is a good start that we're now. This is how you get democracy, to get the consent of those to be governed by the actions to be taken. And that's what I would like to see every time, that we're all involved in the participation of what we're aspiring to. Everybody will put in their 2 cents worth. So whatever this body decides, I'm a key paradigm here. Whatever is decided in this forum, man, at least collectively we were engaged and involved in the process. That's what didn't happen in FY22. And that's water on the bridge for me. I'm willing to work going forward so that we can work collectively together, resolve our differences and our indifferences. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Angel, you're recognized.
Mayor Ernest, thank you. Your recommendation to amend the limited gaming fund has not been forgotten. In fact, the president was there when we had met with Senator San Augustine and Steve Guerrero, and we asked that they look at the limited gaming fund and see if they can give our officers greater flexibility on how it can be used. It's codified, so we have to follow the law, but if it's too late to change the statute for FY 23, then at least they can put a notwithstanding clause in our budget for FY 23 to be able to use it for other needs like fuel and things like that. So I will put that into when we do a public hearing. I would also mention that, and I will also put that in our transmittal letter to the legislature, to the Appropriations Committee, as well as the recommendations on all these other funding sources. We'll begin the ball rolling by mentioning it in our public hearing that, in future budgets, to please consider these other funding sources. But your recommendation for LGF is going to be included in our FY 23 budget.
Thank you, Angel. And like you said, this can augment and supplement my financial or monetary needs, Angel. And, like you said, the argument is that you cannot play baseball when the baseball field is not maintained or kept. You need to get the riding mowers and bush cutters up and running with gasoline in order to maintain it, and then also the access to it, So it all boils down to related expenses. So if we can amend that to allow the purchase of fuel, that will augment and supplement my need to put my riding board in place to and all the other facilities in the sports facilities as well. Thank you, Angel.
Thank you, Mayor Ernest, and thank you, Angel. Yes, we did have that discussion with Senator for fiscal 22, and we'll certainly include that in 23. Thank you. I just want to remind everyone that we do have to determine what we're going to send to the legislature, and I would like to do this have that done at this meeting. So are there any other questions for any of the three presenters or for any of those options that were sent to you? If none, is there a motion to vote on any of the options that were presented? And Mayor Ernest Chargloff's option is, of course, as amended. I just want to remind everyone that if we don't have an option, we're leaving that decision to the legislature.
That's the status quo, right? So that's option D, I think.
Status quo is an option. So again, I'm calling for a motion to vote. The mayor of Modesto is recognized. Mayor, is that a motion?
Yes, Bob. Mr. President, like you said, I put in my exhibit B, but I would like to make a motion to go ahead and vote for the Mayor Chargloff putting it on. As like you said, if you look at the numbers, guys, it's a compromise.
Okay, Mayor Ernest, I'm sorry. So are you making a motion to vote on the options? Okay, so Mayor Ernest made the motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by the Mayor of Sinajana. Any further discussion on this motion, please? The motion again is to vote on the options that were presented to us for our budget allocation. The Mayor of Hoggett is recognized.
I'm sorry, I'm coming in a little late to the meeting, but I know you guys been on it for already an hour, but could we just do a quick snapshot again of the last three or the options? I just want to make sure that before we take a vote that it's clear on what it is that we're voting for.
So maybe just say what option, if you do roll call, say you want option 1, 2, or 3.
Okay.
Let me share the options with everyone. I'll just share the options on the screen one more time.
Again, my apologies. I just want to make sure before we do take a vote.
Okay, can I ask everyone to please make sure your microphones are on mute, please, because there is feedback. So again, I'm just going to ask real nicely one more time if everyone can make sure you're on mute. Thank you so much. So the budget options are on this should be on your screen, noting that Mayor Ernest on option 2 submitted an amended proposal, and that was sent to you by email. So we have option 1 by Mayor Anthony Chargaloff, option 2 by Mayor Ernest Chargaloff, option 3 by Mayor Robert Hoffman, and option 4, which is status quo, was what you received this fiscal year, or option 5, we leave it to the legislature. Okay, so that is, you are voting on those 5 options. Any further discussion on this motion? If there are no other discussions, Madam Secretary, can you please call a roll on the vote, please? Members, you are specifically telling the secretary option 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5, please. Madam Secretary, when you are ready.
Okay, Mayor Jesse Alec,
Option 4.
Mayor Del Alvarez, Vice Mayor Jesse Bautista,
Option 4.
Vice Mayor Peter Benavente, Mayor June Blas,
Option 4.
Mayor Anthony Chargaloff,
Option 1.
Mayor Ernest Chargaloff,
Option 1.
Mayor John Cruz,
Option.
Mayor John Cruz,
It's on the text.
option 1 for Mayor John Cruz. It's it's also showing Mayor Alvarez as option 4, but I don't see him present and he didn't answer on roll call. Okay, for the record.
Madam Secretary, I can confirm that Mayor Alvarez is present. He did inform me that he is present.
Okay. Vice Mayor Kevin Delgado,
Option 4.
Vice Mayor Christopher Farron, Mayor Jesse Gogui,
Option 1.
Mayor Robert Hoffman,
Option 4.
Vice Mayor Rudy Iriarte, Vice Mayor Loretto Leones, Mayor Paul McDonald,
Option 4.
Mayor Rudy Paco,
I abstain.
Mayor Bill Kinga,
Option 1.
Mayor Johnny Canata,
Option 1.
Mayor Luis Rivera, option 4, Mayor Frankie Salas,
Option 1.
Mayor Anthony Sanchez.
Option 4.
One more time.
Option 4.
Mayor Melissa Savaras,
6 p.m.
Mayor Kevin Siswico, Mayor Kevin Siswico,
I'm gonna go ahead and abstain with Mayor Paco.
Mayor Vicente Taitugui,
Option 4.
Vice Mayor Albert Toves,
4.
Mayor Alan Nangakta, Mayor Alan Nangakta,
Mayor Louis.
yes.
Mayor Louise, this is Vice Mayor Kevin. He said option 4.
Okay.
Vice Mayor Benavente, did you have a question or did you need to vote?
No, sorry, I had to step out real quick, but I go option 4.
Mr. President, we have 7 that voted option 1, 13 that voted option 4, and 2 abstain.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. Option 4 will be the option that will be sent to the legislature. Angel will write or to Senator San Augustine for our budget call. Thank you, members. And I look forward to convening our first meeting or our next meeting with this group that will work on our budget again, so that we can have something worked on, just like we started this year. I would like to start real soon. So thank you again. I do appreciate it. Mayor Gogui, you are recognized.
Thank you, Mr. President. You know, now that roll call has been made and the votes have been recorded, can we get a hard copy via email on the actual votes taken and who cast what vote?
When the minutes are prepared, they're typically attached to the minutes.
Okay. Well, you know, typically when we have special meetings, we don't get the minutes for those meetings. That's why I'm asking. Okay.
Thank you, Mayor. Mayor, the mayor's gonna have
I was recognized. I was getting. Yes, I look forward to working with Mayor Ernie and Mayor Gogui on my proposal. And I think what we can do is we can run, and Mayor Tony Chargaloff, I think what we can do is run concurrently, not just the formula proposal, but we can already add the Chargaloff's, I guess, his amendments to it to figure out for how to recognize and take care of our employees in the same, so that it's just one bill which addresses all this, which then moves forward and kind of makes the mayor's council. So I think kicking this back to the legislative committee to make the recommendations would be great. But at the same time and same token, if Angel, if you can already give this as a preempt, because I think majority of us here agree that, you know, let's see what my option does in terms of the numbers, because it really does have, you know, a lot of those places that don't qualify for grants because of high property value income areas. This is where it's going to be made up right here, because those areas will help pay for it. I mean, those businesses will help pay for, I mean, Tamuni's going to look like Las Vegas. So I think let's run concurrent tracks at the same time.
Thank you, Mayor. The Mayor of Modesto is recognized.
Disregard, my question was asked by Mayor Gogui for hard copy of those that voted. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Okay, we'll move on. The senior center operations, I'm hoping that everyone that has a senior center is here. In our status meetings, we have been talking with the staff and public health regarding our potential opening date. And in consideration of the Manilao Center that still is hosting the monoclonal antibody therapy, they will continue to do that through mid-April. And so after that, they'll be able to get their inspection and hopefully, no, not hopefully, we have full confidence in the Manilao Mayor and Vice Mayor that once the clinic is out of their center, that they'll be ready for inspection, they will pass the inspection and will be ready to welcome our Manamco back. With that said, we are looking at a May 2nd target date for opening our senior centers in line with Manamco month. And of course, that once we make that decision, we will speak with public health and make sure that this works with them as well, because they are our partners in this endeavor. So the mayors and vice mayors that operate senior centers that are on this call, are there any objections to a May 2nd opening, please? Or are there any other recommendations for our opening date, please? Thank you.
Is the only reason for
the mayor of Orda Chalanpag was recognized.
Yeah, thanks, Mr. President. Just out of curiosity, if we're shooting for a May opening, is Manilo going to be opened as well? Are they?
That is correct.
So the assumption is that they're going to be able to find a new location, meaning they, public health, will be able to find a new location for the monoclonal vaccinations. Okay.
Mayor Ogobi, that is the main reason why we are considering May 2nd is to accommodate the participants at the Manila Center, which I know include your residents.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, thank you. Any other discussion or any other concerns about the May 2nd opening? Thank you. So if there are no objections, then we will continue to work with public health to look forward to a May 2nd opening for all our senior centers. Thank you very much. We appreciate your help with that. And I do know that we're working with your individual centers to iron out any issues that you might have. And you certainly have our full support and the support of the SCO. Thank you again.
And that's where the conditions, Mr. President, we have 4 weeks notice, right? If it is April 2nd, starting 4 weeks, the clock will, so we can tell our Manamco no more pickup meals, no more nothing.
Right. That is correct.
Good, thank you.
That is correct, yes. And so because I did not want to make that confirmed without speaking to the mayors first, I didn't want to, to proceed with all of that. But now that we've made that decision here, or there are no objections to that, we'll continue to work toward that. On announcements, there's some important stuff that needs to be announced. The first one is, and I know it's not part of our agenda because we did not put it we didn't publish it in the newspaper, but there is a lot of talk about liberation. And I would like to say that we've been talking about liberation as a council because it is statute that we handle these events, and since January. And so we do know that the mayors will take care of the memorials like we did last year. And Mayor June Blas is helping us to coordinate those memorials. So that will continue as planned. I do want to let the council, the members know that you should prepare for a liberation parade. I still have not yet met with the governor and the lieutenant governor, but I will be meeting real soon to discuss our plans. But please know that the liberation parade will more than likely occur this year. And so we would like for everyone's participation. I know that some of you have called me about it because you've heard it. You've heard it on the news or you've heard it on the radio. And it is true that we are considering it. We are not asking you for any money. We'll make sure that we find our partners to make sure that this works for all of us, because it is time to celebrate not only our liberation from the atrocities of war, but certainly the war of COVID. And so there were other options or other suggestions from some of our colleagues about how do we participate. Some of us are not ready to participate by putting together a 40-foot float. You don't have to put a 40-foot float together. You can do whatever you can to represent your village. I know some of us have other priorities and that's kind of taking a toll on us, and that's fine. But if you certainly can consider how you can be a part of liberation this year, I know that everybody would appreciate it. Angel?
Yeah, under announcements as well, I know that Nick Delgado is on the call here somewhere, but he has a group that's called Team 26. We send this email to all of you, and they're doing a walkathon, I believe, on March 26th is a Saturday, and this is to raise some funds to help with the Guam Homeless Coalition. The theme is Hands Across the Island, and Nick and his group are just asking whatever support we can give to their group to make sure that when they're walking on the side of the road that, at least it's going to be safe. I believe it's starting in the south. If you have any questions, I think it's on here, but it's a good cause. And, the Office of Homeless Assistance and Poverty Prevention is our tenant upstairs. So they're part of it. And we would also like to support them. The other announcement is, as Joanne sent out to all of you yesterday, the ARPA funding of the $46,954 to all of you has already been uploaded. So you can start turning in your requisitions now. The account number is identified. You have any questions, either call Don or Joanne. It's for operations, okay? It's not to go and purchase a vehicle or things like that. That's another funding. But this is the same way as what you're using WAMPs for. It's ready. So if you want to put in your requisitions, you can do so now. I know that some of you put in your requisitions earlier, but we couldn't act on those. We returned it because the funding at that time was not uploaded, nor was the account number established. But those are already done. So we're just letting you know that you are able to send in your requisitions for those for your operations now. Another program, Salapi, I know that all of you, I believe only one village did not pick up the applications, but those are all available to the public who come to your offices. My only concern is I heard on the radio yesterday that some villages were responding to questions from residents, and the information being given out was an error. They were telling residents that if you are unemployed, you're not qualified, which was corrected by DOA. It's not correct. So my suggestion is, if the residents do have questions about program Salapi, that they be referred to DOA or to DRT and not answer the questions on their own, because it's going out over the radio or we're giving out wrong information. Thank you.
The mayor of Fort Chalampago is recognized.
Yeah, again, thank you, Mr. President, for recognizing me. Angel, you know, I understand that, you know, this ARPA funds, the 46,000, is not intended to buy big stuff. But, you know, out of your office, there was an email recommending to the mayors that we consider utilizing some of that $46,000 to purchase computers, you know, for our offices. And so we're saying that we're not going to allow the expenditure of these funds for equipment.
Mayor, not the capital improvement equipment like big vehicles and things like that, but for your office operations, you are allowed to do so.
Okay, I mean, because I mean, even bush cutters, you know,
Yeah.
my bush cutters are like 5 years old and they take a beating. And so it's time. And given the fact that we've had such a drastic drop in our appropriations for this fiscal year and last fiscal year, the use of these funds to replace these bush cutters would be extremely helpful. So,
You can use it for bush cutters as well.
okay,
As long as your office put the spending categories in the right category, you can use it.
Understood.
Okay.
Understood. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Gogwe. And the last announcement that I have is coming from former Senator Louise Borja. She would like to connect with the mayor's offices because she's working on a program with Payless Markets to to address some park cleanup or areas in your village that might need cleanup for Earth Month. And so I'll send out an email with her contact information. So if you can speak with her directly to coordinate a cleanup in your village if you would like. Any other announcements? Okay, great. Well, thank you so much for your time and for all your contributions. We'll keep you posted on our first meeting for April, and if it'll be in person. It more than likely will be in person. We will cross
Happy St. Patty's Day.
Happy St. Patrick's Day, and Viva San Jose, because we won't see each other.
Viva San Jose.
Adios.
Adios, everyone.
Adios.
It is 11:33 and the meeting is now adjourned.